jumping in now as we're waiting to get started. If you don't know who your representative and senator are yet, your state rep and state senator, go to my voter page and look it up because I would love for you all to know that. But yes, just file in here. We'll probably start around 7:05-ish with the questions and the introductions. So welcome. Yes, and we are live streaming now. Hello, Facebook. Hello, everyone on Facebook.
Hello.
Yes, hello. All right, everyone joining us now, be aware that we also are on Zoom. So if you hear that I'm talking about a Q&A section, just know that I am talking about the Zoom Q&A. And we will be joined by our other panelists here in a minute, and we'll get started. And for anyone who didn't hear me say, if you don't know who your representative, state representative, and state senator are, if you want to go to my voter page and just look that up real quick, it's a great moment. You have a free moment to go look that up. So I highly encourage you to do so because they're probably pretty cool if you're into cab.
The coolest.
The coolest in DeKalb, especially this one right here. Representative Shea Roberts. Okay, we're filing in. Oh, I see a lot of people who I recognize. Hello, everyone. Oh, and I also want to give a shout out. We've got some of our leadership training program participants on here. Hello,
Yay.
guys. So glad you all could be here. For anyone who doesn't know, Representative Shea Roberts, Rep. Karen Lupton, and Rep. Marvin Lim are doing a wonderful program where we are teaching people about what happens inside the Georgia Gold Dome. But yeah, we're going to get started here in just a minute and welcome anyone from any other county too. You're all so cool. Fulton, Gwinnett, y'all are cool too. You're welcome to DeKalb here though.
I also represent Fulton, so yes, we're cool too. Have to give equal time.
All right, all over Georgia. I'm getting messages that we've got people from all over Georgia. That's super cool. Yeah, we have a lot of participants this evening. All right. Welcome any new people. Just know we'll get started in a few minutes. So if you want to turn me off for the first 3 minutes and say, Melanie, I don't want to hear you keep welcoming people in. You can mute me for a minute. I'll give you this sign when we actually start. Okay, do we have Senator Kim Jackson? I have heard. Welcome, Senator Jackson. Hello, how are you doing?
Great, how are you all?
Doing
Hello.
wonderful, wonderful.
Happy holidays.
All right, everyone. Yes, and for anyone celebrating the third night of Hanukkah tonight, happy Hanukkah. Hope you get some yummy latkes, and I think I have some in my background here somewhere. Yeah, they're in there. All right, so I think we are about to get started here in just 1 minute. And just be aware, any of your questions, please do put them in the Q&A. You will not be able to put them in any chat, but please do put them in our Q&A and we will try to get to as many as we possibly can, as many as time allows. All right. Oh, did we lose Senator Jackson?
I'm sure she's coming back.
I'm here. I'm just trying to scarf down some food very quickly.
Oh, please eat. You have like no time and you're about to have even less time during session. So take a moment. All right. Well, we are almost at 7:05, so I am going to start by welcoming you all. Thank you so much for being here to learn about what we learned in 2025, the legislative session, and how we as Democrats can prepare for the upcoming legislative session in 2026. My name is Melanie Jacobson. I am going to be your moderator tonight. I am Representative Shea Roberts, Chief of Staff, along with a few other wonderful representatives I get to work for. But we are so excited to have you all here because it shows that you truly care about Georgia. This is where you can make a big impact. If you're feeling like the federal level is something that's untouchable, I'm not going to say that it's not untouchable. This is very reachable for a lot of us. So I'm super excited to have you all here. And I'm going to introduce our two panelists tonight. Like I said, if you have any questions, do put them in the Q&A. But we're going to get started. And if we can go to the next slide, I'm going to introduce Senator Kim Jackson. Wonderful. So this is Senator Kim Jackson. She is one of the coolest people down at the state legislature, serving District 41. And she represents portions of DeKalb County and works really hard every day to build a safer, fairer, and more prosperous Georgia, really bringing that diverse voices from her district to the Capitol, representing immigrants, refugees, and people living on the margins. And, in her first years, Kim has defended our voting rights against relentless attacks, authored life-saving legislation for stalking victims, which passed both chambers, which is huge, unanimously secured unprecedented funds for Black farmers, and started serving as the co-chair of the Mental Health Caucus. She is just a really fantastic legislator to have down there. And in this year's session, Kim passed legislation to create an address confidentiality program for victims and survivors of domestic violence, stalking violence, and human trafficking. And Kim and her family currently live in Stone Mountain. She and her wife are stewards of a small urban farm in Georgia that hosts goats, ducks, honeybees, rabbits, and chickens. That is so cool. But yes, I just wanted to say that we are so happy to have you here. And we have two people on our panel from both chambers because we need both chambers in order to pass a bill, y'all. And that is super important to get both perspectives because, like I said, we need it. And if you want to see more about Senator Jackson, you can go to kimforgeorgia.com. And that'll really give you a good insight into that. All right, next slide. And I'm going to introduce Representative Shea Roberts. All right, so Representative Shea Roberts covers District 52, which is parts of Sandy Springs, Brookhaven, and Dunwoody. She was elected in 2020 and is truly a champion for reproductive freedom. She also is the lead sponsor of the Reproductive Freedom Act, RFA, and is a leading voice on expanding access to healthcare, advancing common sense gun safety, and protecting our democracy through fair maps and elections. I have the biggest privilege of working for this wonderful legislator, and I cannot wait for you all to hear about all the things that we did last year and what we're planning to do this year. If you want to know more about Representative Roberts, you can also go to her website, which is sheaforgeorgia.com. It is a really good place to also sign up for her newsletter. I'm going to highly encourage that because it is something that during session we do release every week, and it'll really give you a good inside look into that. And just one more slide before I jump into the questions here. So I want to, you can click on to them. Thank you so much. I also want to encourage all of you to follow both of these legislators on social media, Kim for Georgia and Shea for Georgia, because that is one way. If we're not able to email out a newsletter, like I said, that comes out once a week. These two do a lot on social media and really try to keep y'all updated, keeping y'all informed when we need you. There's going to be some more action items I give you at the end of this program, but these are two big ways that you can follow along with what we're doing. And like I said, Georgia is a great place to make a big impact if you want to actually feel like you're doing something, want to decrease your anxiety. Go follow these pages right now. But I am going to say, if either of you have anything you want to add to what I just said, go ahead, and then I'll kick off with questions.
I'm good.
All good? All good. All right. So let's start with our first question for tonight. I'm going to pose this to both of you. Now, if you want to talk with each other, let's make this an open dialogue if we can, and just feel free to piggyback in. But my first question for you is really, in your opinion, it's a hard question. What were some of the best and worst bills that passed in the 2025 session? And then which bad bills that survived 2025 most concern you? So I'll start you off with that. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
I was struggling to remember the good ones, Kim. There were so many bad ones.
That's very fair.
There were some decent things in the budget, I guess. Let's see. If you know, go ahead. And
Yeah, sure. So I can the one good one that comes to mind, which was actually pretty should have been low-hanging fruit, but it took a long time, is that we did update how we do capital punishment in Georgia. So we have changed the amount of evidence that's needed in order to prove that someone was like mentally or developmentally delayed and therefore could not be held responsible for the murder of someone to the point of being executed themselves, right? So they could still receive life without parole. But now Georgia is no longer willing to execute people who are developmentally delayed up to a certain point. And we also refined that so that instead of doing a trial and then determining that at the end, we're determining that on the front side. So we're not wasting a whole lot of money ahead of time. So I think for me, that was probably the biggest win out of the legislature this year. I've also been working in the anti-death penalty space for the last 15 years. So it felt like a big personal win for me as well.
I totally agree. And I had that one starred because I'm on the judiciary non-civil committee. And so that came to my committee. And you're right. It seems like it should have been a no-brainer that somebody who has an intellectual disability should not be put to death. And so I was very happy to see that one pass and vote for that in committee and on the House floor.
And maybe I'll stay in that criminal justice space, if you will. So I don't know, actually, Representative Roberts, if you were able to vote for this bill or not, but Scott Holcomb's bill, in terms of creating a pathway for those who have been wrongfully convicted, it was attached to another bill that some folks felt like they could not vote for. I, however, will make the pitch that if someone is wrongfully prosecuted by a prosecutor who conducts themselves in a way that is wrong, if they are actually doing misconduct, I actually do think we should reimburse people for their legal fees, because honestly, that's going to help the little guy way more than most people. But attached to that same bill, which some people call the Trump bill, was really good legislation that creates a pathway for people who are wrongfully convicted to be able to get reimbursed without having to go through historically what was a really onerous process that required each individual person to have a representative to bring a bill for them specifically. It was completely unfair. Oftentimes on the Senate side, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle would relitigate the entire case. It was absolutely ineffectual. And so I'm really glad to see that Representative Holcomb, who dedicated probably 5 years to working on this, was able to finally get that through. And we're actually hearing the first cases in administrative court right now to make sure that folks can get compensated for their wrongful conviction. So that's the other thing that I would lift up as a good thing that did come out of session.
Oh, yes, that's true. Scott worked so hard on that. And how many sessions did we go where mainly members from your side refused to compensate? In the past, they always come on sine die, like at the very end. But I don't think since I had seen any denied until maybe the last 2 years.
Yeah, definitely the last 2 or 3 years. It's been specifically, I'll call his name, Senator Randy Robertson has been a huge bulwark in preventing those bills from being able to pass.
Yes, I think he actually told me that in one of them, he thought that the evidence wasn't correct. And I'm thinking, last I checked, you weren't participated in the trial and you don't get to be the judge, jury, and everything else. Yeah, he comes to my committee a lot, and he is one of the more challenging ones for sure. And that bill was really, I mean, it's an example of kind of what happens down there that it can be very ugly, because I was in full support of that bill, but I had spent all session also fighting former Senator Brandon Beach's bill, which as a representative of Fulton County essentially said that if Fani Willis remained or was found to be disqualified if she lost her appeal, that and the case was dismissed because another prosecutor wasn't appointed, then Fulton County residents would end up paying for the litigation costs for that case. And that was to the tune, I think I heard, of at least $5 million. And it comes out of the prosecutor's budget. And so that means Fulton County residents could be less safe. And so that one was hard for me because I walked into committee and realized what they had added to it. And I just was nauseous, but I had been a staunch advocate against his bill. I was pretty sure Scott's bill was going to pass with or without me. So it was one of those that just a disgusting example of how they manipulate bills to force us into ridiculous situations that are not good for the voters.
Yeah, I mean, I will just say, just like my little tidbit here, I understand you represent Fulton County. It's a lot of money, but it wasn't a Fulton specific bill. It's a Georgia specific bill. And if someone is wrongfully like prosecuted by someone who actually does misconduct, which I got some questions about, Fani, if the biggest, most likely thing is that a prosecutor purposefully hides evidence. If a prosecutor purposefully hides evidence or does not display evidence that could have exonerated somebody, it's good policy. It's good Democratic policy, actually, to make sure that that little guy who was being unfairly convicted, unfairly prosecuted, that their family gets reimbursed for the fees that they pay. It's actually good policy, but I understand that because of the Trump situation, it ends up being very, very costly, potentially for Fulton. So I understand the political side of it, but from a practical side of it, which I don't represent Fulton County, so I didn't have to think about the political side as much. I think it is good policy on its face.
Well, I guess I was struggling with the fact that, well, first of all, Senator Beach, I asked him the direct question, and he very clearly said that it was exactly what he was trying to do, which was to get Trump's bills paid for. And considering my election in 2020 was challenged all the way to the Georgia Supreme Court by one of those indictees that now will recover their funds, I personally just had a problem with the fact that, that now the case is not going to be litigated, that there's never going to be a prosecutor who's going to ever take on that case. And I think it's a shame because I think there was probably some culpability there, and it's caused Georgians a lot of money and expense. And I think of the poll workers that had to hide out and all of the things that were created by that entire mess. And so just the Senator Beach using his power as he's on his way out from the Senate to go be Trump's U.S. treasurer. It felt disgusting to me that he was using his power to give his new boss quid pro quo. I mean, it was a quid pro quo kind of thing. And so there were so many, and then for them to tack it on to a bill where I believe they were guilty of something, to tack it onto a bill where these people have suffered in prison for years and are not being compensated. That was just the most disgusting thing ever, to put those two things together. So it all just was the worst.
It's really a shame when politics get in the way of governance. I think we can all agree on that. And I really appreciate you all discussing that, because that was something that was really big, I remember, for all of us during session. I wanted to just ask y'all real quick. I know we talked a little bit about like that bill that did actually get through and get passed. I believe it was signed by the governor, correct? Yeah. And so I really wanted to ask you all, which bad bad bills that survive this past session are we most worried about, and that we want to give folks a heads up about coming into this current legislative session to kind of say, okay, when this comes up, we're going to need your help to fight it?
I think it's the DEI bill. Is that one, Kim?
Yeah, that's right. I would look that up. And I think it probably, I mean, it originated in the Senate. It's still in the Senate. I suspect that the Senate will probably actively work to try to pass it. I think it will be a different iteration than the one that they have. It'll probably be a little bit smarter, but it's still going to be a bad bill.
Oh, for some reason, I thought y'all passed it out.
Oh, maybe we did, but yeah, I guess we did. It happened like at 1 o'clock in the morning. You're right. I just like completely blanked.
That was my recollection, and it had something to do with in the schools, right? Like higher ed, and
yeah,
they can't have any policies or anything that reference diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah. Okay. So I'm expecting it's coming to us
That's
next.
right. You're right.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me that it already came out of my body.
Trust me, I had to go back and look at everything because there was a lot. I mean, it's
difficult that it's every 2 years y'all have to refocus on this kind of stuff, and like
I think we also block it out because it's so bad. I mean, we had RFRA, we had anti-trans bills, we had some bad bills.
I don't think the anti-trans bills are done. I think that is still alive and will come back again as well. I also there's some bad voting bills out there. So I think the House has been the backstop for the most part, but there's still some pretty bad voting bills out there that we have to be on guard for. That would, I think one of the most egregious parts, it would eliminate drop boxes completely. Completely eliminate drop boxes, which are already limited in some ways. And then also at some point, there was a provision in a Senate version that would have made it impossible essentially to vote early, except for at like your county registrar's office. So they were going to eliminate or cut down on the number of early voting sites. I think that we were able to remove that portion, but if they introduce it one time, I guarantee you it will rear its head again.
Yes. Well, and I know we have a study committee that's been going on, the Blue Ribbon Study Committee, and I don't think I've seen the final what's coming out of that, but there's been lots of discussion around getting rid of no excuse absentee voting as well. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that committee meeting. And, I mean, how many members in your caucus are running for higher office?
Not my caucus.
I'm sorry, not your caucus, your chamber. Oh my gosh, no, not your caucus. Well, you have a few in your caucus too.
We had 2, 3 in our caucus specifically. So Senator Jason Estevez is no longer. He resigned. Senator Josh McLaurin, this is in my caucus, is the Dem, is running for lieutenant governor, and then Emmanuel Jones is running for a congressional seat. On the Republican side, there are 5 legislators who are running. Wow. Mostly all for LG for the same exact seat. So it'll be interesting.
It will be.
Yeah, that kind of brings me into this question about with all these people running statewide, what ways do you think that's going to impact for both of you in the House and the Senate? How will that impact this year's legislature with all these people trying to like get the mic and talk or not be there and that kind of stuff?
I think you're going to have, I think this is true in any election, those speeches are all political speeches. I think you're going to see one battle. I think you're going to see is the Senate wants no income tax. The House wants no property tax. So that's going to be like a financial battle that will go on. I don't know. Kim, do you think they're going to go for the red meat of more MAGA worse?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The worst of the worst. It'll be in the Senate. I mean, you have to remember that the president of the Senate is Burt Jones, who's running for governor, and who is running very, very far to the right with Trump's endorsement. So I expect to see lots of red meat, lots of grandstanding. And in the Senate, we have no rules about how long you can speak on a bill. So there will be lots of opportunity for those gentlemen to take the mic and say all the things that they want to say for their campaign.
We should just tell Josh to hold the mic the whole time.
That actually doesn't do us any better in terms of being able
He's
to
at least
get anything
funny.
good done. He is very funny. But if we want to actually accomplish anything in the legislature, having people hold the mic for a very long time doesn't get us there.
Do you think
And
we
I think
will
that's
though?
important.
Like,
I'm
I don't
sorry.
think they're going to let us accomplish much. So last session, I kept track with scorecard. I don't know if you saw on my social of how many Republican sponsored bills passed out of the House by sine die versus Democratic sponsored bills. And it was literally 297 to 21. And of those 21, I think only 3 were signed by the governor that were Democratic sponsored from our side. Or maybe it was both of our sides. I don't know. You had a bill that you got through. So I don't feel like we get anything done as it is now. And that's why I fight so hard to try to flip the state house, because I feel like until we have a divided government, at least we have a little bit more leverage. And I love the Eric Gissler one. And so we have 91 seats going in, which no, sorry. Yeah, 91. Is that right? 180. We only need 10 seats to take the majority. I know that. Every seat does give us a little more leverage on those topics where, like school vouchers was close because there were rural legislators that their public schools are important to them. But until we take one of the chambers, I just honestly think that I don't know that much is going to get done.
No, I think that's right. Like certainly the numbers are baked in already. You kind of know what the scoreboard is going to look like. Until occasionally there are some good things that squeak by, right? So I think that's what I'm concerned about, those few bipartisan bills that we are able to pass together. I'd like for us to get that done, and being able to pass a budget that funds our schools, that makes sure that Hope is funded at 100%. Like there are a few things that
the budget definitely, we have to do that one,
right, but will we do it well, right? And I hope that we won't waste a lot of time with red meat and a whole lot of grandstanding and not do the budget well. And that's what I am concerned about, because there are lots of ways that we could not meet our duties and obligations within the budget, even though we pass it, right?
Well, with so much federal money not coming down, I'm just going to be so frustrated if we continue to leave $14 billion just sitting in or $11 billion. That's above and beyond the required $5 billion rainy day fund. And, every day we read in the paper some other federal funding that is not coming our way. And that's taxpayer dollars sitting in that account, just earning interest so that Governor Kemp can say we've got a surplus. We're underfunding it as it is now, and literally children are going hungry, and we're about to have 1 million people uninsured. We had 500,000 uninsured, and now we're doubling that because these subsidies weren't extended. So I hope we do better with the budget too. You're right.
Yeah, I think having these conversations also and talking about these things with our constituents here is super important, because I don't think that when the headlines start coming out, the big headlines, that they get this inner look that I'm really glad that you all are providing tonight. And I want to make clear to everyone, because you all do, we have these 2 chambers here. What do you both think that the legislative priorities for the Democrats in the House and Senate will be this year, so that when things start getting lost in the mess, that everyone here knows what our priorities were and what we're going to fight for?
Go ahead, Senator Jackson.
Yeah, sure. So affordability is going to be at the very top of our list of priorities, and that includes certainly addressing issues around housing. We have a junk fees bill to eliminate junk fees across the state of Georgia. We have, as we've had for several years, a bill that gets rid of the state's preemption on rent control. And then we'll also be working on trying to increase the housing trust fund for affordable housing. So a number of things in the housing arena that will be very high on our list. We will also really be leaning into trying to make sure that people just have access to the ability to care for their children and for themselves. Senator Harold Jones, our leader, just completed a study committee on caretaking in Georgia. Almost like 1 in 10 Georgians is taking care of either a child or an elder parent, elder person. And so making sure that people can do that without being bankrupt is really a high priority for us. And so we'll be looking at certainly extending our childcare opportunities, making sure that the childcare tax reimbursement, which we did raise slightly, hopefully some saw a little bit of that in their pockets. So that's one other decent thing we did.
Yeah.
We'll emphasize that, looking at making sure that people have opportunities for parental leave, things like that. But those are kind of the high level gloss of the things that we'll be looking at this year.
It sounds like our caucuses are coordinating better together, because a lot of what you said is kind of, we haven't formally adopted the policy platform yet. We're going to do that in January, but the things that I saw in the draft were very similar to what you said, all based around affordability. Everything that we talk about will be based, even when we talk about the issues that will always remain important, especially for me, on reproductive freedom. I will be talking about it from the context that you can't force women to have children when they can barely afford to keep a roof over their head, healthcare, childcare. These are all related to affordability, and they're really impacting Georgians every day. I saw we were going to try and raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, I think was one that we're looking at. But the housing, the childcare, needs-based hope, I know is going to be a big one that we're going to push for. I think we're one of the only states that doesn't actually provide needs-based care for our college students. Or
That's
we
right.
provide.
I believe they're one of two. There are 48 states. Senator Nan Orrock just did a study committee this session on this very issue. Yeah.
She spoke at the Women's Caucus retreat, and that's where I got that information. And I think that's crazy, because we have young people who they might be able to afford books and tuition, but they can't afford housing, so they just can't go, or they go for 1 year, take out loans, realize it's going to put them into bankruptcy before they even get out of the second year, and so they quit and they never finish, and that's just sad. So I know that one is big on the list too.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear you both talk about similar things that both chambers are going to focus on, because I feel like we actually may be able to get stuff done. The more we coordinate, the better. And I wanted to go back to something we mentioned a few minutes ago, with winning House District 121 and Roswell and the PSC races. So I know that we need a majority in order to actually get these priorities passed. Like we're going to try our best this session. I mean, it's going to be very difficult, but I wanted to ask you both, looking ahead to November 2026, which Georgia House and Senate races look to you both to be the most competitive, and what do you recommend that the voters do, even like during session or after session, to help make sure that we continue that momentum?
Go ahead and give your perspective, Senator Jackson, and then I'll
Yeah. So I will say we are super encouraged by the special election that came out of the House. Kudos to you all for being able to flip that seat. So even before session starts, we have a special, right at the beginning of session, we have a special election in the Senate that's based in Macon. Senator John Kennedy has resigned. And so January 20th, there will be a special election down there in Macon, and we have one Democratic candidate, Lamario, I don't remember Laura Mario's last name, Brown, I think. but Lamario is a Black farmer. This is why I know him by his first name. He's a Black farmer, graduate of Fort Valley State, an incredible candidate. And so we are circling around him and hoping that we can do what
Oh
you
my
all did in the
gosh.
House.
That would be amazing.
It would be amazing. It's a similar district in terms of the plus, where Eric was. So we're hopeful, we're optimistic. So that's during session. That's the 20th that we're looking for that first. And then we have some other target seats. So for 2026 November, the general, we're looking at District 48, which was Senator Michelle Al. She was elected the same time as I was. That was her district originally. And then in redistricting, they drew that to make that no longer a winnable seat for Democrats. But time has a way of moving towards progress. And so 48 is in striking distance. We're talking about a +1, +2 seat. So really looking at coming that currently is Senator Sean Still, who was a fake elector as well. So we'll be coming after that seat. And then another one that I think is really ripe for us to work and activate around is Senate District 42, which is currently Senator Brian Strickland's district. It's in Henry County. Let me specify, the 48 is like Johns Creek area. Mainly, that's kind of the big heart of it. It is a Senate district, so it's bigger than that, but Johns Creek is the most notable name. 42 is Senator Brian Strickland's district currently, which is Henry County, Walton County, some kind of in that area. However, he's running for Attorney General, so it will be an open seat. And that seat has always been on the fringe of competitive in the first place. So we'll be targeting that too with an open seat, and with the way that elections have been going for us already, we're super optimistic and really excited about the possibilities.
I mean, we haven't won a statewide election in 20 years. Is that what I heard? And so 2 PSC races, that was just amazing. And Eric's seat with a +22 Trump district. Yeah, so it's very encouraging. I am cautious to tell everybody it's a little bit of apples to oranges because it's a special election. So the turnout is lower. So I don't want anybody resting. I want them ready to work hard because, these will be difficult races, but I'm very optimistic with Trump's approval rating where it is right now. And people are just fed up. This last weekend was just really dark, and his comments about Rob Reiner are about the most depraved I could imagine, and disrespectful to someone. So for the State House, someone gave me the number. It's 81 is where we are at. I think we have 8 in our tier 1 this time. And I think the margin is if the last State House rep got at least 43%. And so, but the key ones are in Gwinnett and North Fulton primarily. We have to protect Jasmine Clark's district because it's always been close, and she's been such a great representative, and it's an open seat now. So we need to make sure we work hard on that one. 108 was Farouk McGall's seat. He lost to Sandy Downatucci last time by 77 votes. So obviously that's one that we cannot let lay. We got to get that one back. Then it is HD 99, which currently Representative Matt Reeves holds that seat, but Michelle King got within 677 votes last time. So she was the closest. And she started way early and is running again. And she's got a really sophisticated team, and she's working her tush off. And so if people are looking for someone to go volunteer with, she's really doing a great job this time. Then there is HD 53, which is currently held by Representative Deborah Silcox. This is my personal one that I'm working very hard on because for those of you who don't know, I beat her in 2020, and then through redistricting, they drew her an open seat with no incumbent so that she could come back. And that just doesn't seem quite right. So We have recruited an excellent candidate, Beth Fuller. She is a fired CDC worker or contractor. She has a doctorate in public health and two beautiful kids in Sandy Springs Public Schools. And she is funny and fiery and brilliant. And she has so many illegally fired CDC workers behind her. She has an army that is ready to volunteer because they want to get one of their own in where they can actually feel like we have a chance to make a difference. And I believe we're going to get that seat. We got within 1,266 votes last time, and I think we can get that in this cycle. Scott Hilton, HD 48. We've got a great candidate there. Adam Cleveland, he has launched. Everybody's starting early. We recruited very early. Who else? Danielle Bell is running against Don Parsons, who was elected in 1995. Yeah. It's time for new blood. She's running a second time. She started much earlier and she's working her tush off too. So I think she might be a seat that is a sleeper that no one's expecting us to get. She got 43% last time. Mitchell White is also running a second time. He's down in actually Henry County, I think, McDonough area. And he started early his second time and is working really hard too. So I think there are some great seats, and it's going to take all of us pitching in. If you can't knock doors, you can phone bank. If you can write postcards, there's all kinds of things that people can do. I can't hear you, Melanie. What'd you say?
Oh, no, I was saying they can donate.
Donate. Oh my gosh. I mean, the amount of money that these races are costing now, because we are moving towards the majority in the state house. I know that the prior candidate that ran against Silcox raised over $800,000. And so these races are really expensive. And the problem is that these leadership PACs, where we can't see how much money is actually being spent on candidates, is making it challenging to also know what's coming from behind the scenes. And so, but we are all working hard to get them elected. I personally work hard on it every day. So it's my mission.
We're so thankful. So thankful for you. And I wanted to say, everyone, we're going to have some action items here at the end, but I do want to take some questions from the Q&A. This has been fantastic. You know how much I adore both of you. So I'm going to hit you with just some questions we've got from people. We're going to take 4 questions for right now. And if anyone wants to submit a 5th one, I got one more for you. But like I said, stay for those action items at the end. So I'm going to start with a question we have from Sydney, and she asked specifically for Senator Jackson, what do you think would be ideal legislation that would benefit farmers, the environment, and the economy?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think there's a lot of things. I'm not sure that there's a one policy fits all solve. Something that I've been really interested in is figuring out a way to incentivize farmers to use good regenerative ag practices. And that specifically is for both large farms, but also for small farms. I think fundamentally, if you've ever been down, we have like the Little Grand Canyon down in South Georgia, close to the Alabama line. It is beautiful, but it was created because of bad farming practices. So Georgia knows firsthand that when we don't use good farming practices, when we don't use regenerative ag practices, sustainable ag practices, bad things happen. You get these huge holes in the ground that show you all the different layers of the earth. And so I really want to incentivize that. The other piece of this is I also, not only do I want to incentivize sustainable regenerative ag, I'd really love to continue to find ways to make sure that local farmers, their food shows up in local schools, local hospitals, and in local grocery stores. That's a harder lift. I don't have a policy specific fix for that. And I think we've tried a few things. I do believe that local farmers' food is showing up more in our food banks now because we have a really great food pantry to table kind of deal, but I'd love to see that expanded to make sure that we really do include our schools, our hospitals, and our grocery store. So those are ideas. It's not a one size fits all. It's not an easy solution, but the thing that I really am focused on a lot is regenerative ag.
Yeah, and I think we do a lot on the ground, even when we can't work in policy necessarily without the majority. There's a lot of things we do in our communities to really help this. So thank you so much for that answer, Senator Jackson. And then the next question I have from Carter for both of you is, what is the Democratic Caucus's housing policy going into 2026?
I'm going to see if I can find let's see.
Yeah, I've spoken to some of that earlier around making sure that we have, I mean, we're going to continue to try to repeal the preemption, state preemption around rent control. We want to bring that back to local counties, local cities to make that choice. I have a colleague who also is very committed to making sure that we increase the housing stock by making some adjustments to our zoning laws. There are significant zoning laws across the state. I will say, you know, typically Democrats are not for preemption, right? Like, we work really hard as Democrats to not make bills that stop local city governments and county governments from being able to do things. But this is one moment where I feel that Democrats have really coalesced and said, you know, the cities and counties aren't willing to fix their zoning issues for themselves, so we might actually need to do it for them and make sure that we have opportunities to expand multifamily housing, make smaller lots, things like that. There are a number of things that really do prevent us from increasing our housing stock that show up in our housing policies.
Yeah, being a zoning attorney myself, I am on governmental affairs, and sometimes I get in trouble with my Democratic colleagues because I try to look at each one of those issues individually, because I have seen cities and counties kind of push policy that I think is not always long-term in the best interest of increasing housing and quality housing and affordable housing. And so I agree with you. I think we may get pushback from our municipal and county lobbyists, but I think it's time that we look at some of those things as well.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. And then the next question I have from Karen is, in your opinion, what is the best way that we can really, you know, based on what legislators are doing, how can we let other citizens who may not be as involved or engaged or may not be on this webinar, how can we let them know what their legislators are doing? Or if their legislators aren't doing something that we really want them to do, how can we help push them towards doing, you know, things on the ground and doing the policy we want?
Oh, I think social media, like if you follow one of us and you see us posting about something, share it, repost it, because we're going to do our best to keep the people who are interested in what we're doing informed while this is all going on. Subscribe to legislators' newsletters to get specific bill information. I know you've got an action item, Melanie, at the end about where they can sign up to, but I would say to get it out to other folks. I'm really encouraging people to try and bring it up organically in the social things that they do, so that it's not just Democrat Shea Roberts coming in the room and forcing my stuff on it. It's, you know, in my district, which is a wealthier district, you know, the women play mahjong or pickleball, or I don't even know. They have a book club. Like, bring stuff up there. There's a group that formed here in the North Perimeter area. Oh, Melanie, what's their name? The craft one.
Liberal Moms Crafting.
Liberal Moms Craft Club. And they hosted an event recently for Senator John Ossoff up in North Sandy Springs. And I walked in, and the first thing that hit me was these were the younger moms, little kids running around. And that's a group that, and I remember when my babies were young, it's hard to do it all. Senator Jackson knows, she's got a little one. I mean, you're just trying to get the kid fed, get through the witching hour, like get your job done, all of those things. And so it's hard to have time to follow politics. And so they started this crafting club, and they try to have an action item at every single one. So I immediately went up and said, let me come talk to y'all. Let's figure out how we can communicate better. And one thing they said, and I haven't had time to do it yet, but I am hoping to do it before long, is they like podcasts, and they think a short, podcast of trustworthy summary of what's going on and what they can do is something that they would be interested in the most. So that's a group that we can't seem to get. We have volunteers that are in my age group, and we have older retired folks, and we have the young kids that come and, volunteer. But I feel like that group is one that we're missing. I don't know that they're not voting, but we're definitely not like in communication with them as much, I feel like.
Just for the record, I have 2 small children, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. The 4-year-old was opening the door a few minutes ago, so I'm proud of those mommies who were civically engaged. Good job.
Yes, exactly.
It is definitely hard to do it all. I don't know how y'all do it, especially during session. That is just incredible. All right. And then I have another question from Lisa here, who says, how can we use affordability to get more Democrats elected? Like, how do we sell, like, what they were saying? Oh, your egg prices are going to go up and all this stuff. And actually it's exactly the same as it was.
Yeah, I will say, I think that in some ways, the lack of affordability is actually the messaging. It's doing the messaging for us. And that's why we're seeing these seats change kind of mid-cycle along the way, is because people can't afford stuff. So I think we just have to keep singing like that tune, pointing that out to people, but also we have to have real ideas that are tangible, that are bite-sized, that people can understand about what we will do to address that affordability issue. And that's a little more complicated on the state side, right? Like if we were in federal government, we'd be like, get rid of Trump's tariffs. And, that's pretty easy and straightforward. How we address affordability on the state level, it's harder to make that a concise statement, right? Because I'm just like, oh, we're going to increase the housing trust. We're going to do all these things that are kind of in the weeds. But I think ultimately, if we want to get more Democrats elected, we've got to refine that messaging and make it very clear that we are working to make things affordable for you and for your families.
Yeah, I think pointing out that Republicans have been completely in charge for the last 2 decades, and it's just progressively been getting worse, is one part of the dialogue that I think people can understand. We did it really well in the PSC race, letting them understand that the Public Service Commission, that's who decides the rates, and it's negotiated with this public-private monopoly, essentially. And so people understood, if I vote for these 2 people, they're going to stand up to keep my rates down. And so we need to look at, the childcare stuff. I think people cannot afford to work and pay childcare. So that's one that we know. We've just got to simplify it and make sure we're talking about the issues that are really people are feeling at home every day. And I think we're getting better and better in our messaging every time. So hopefully.
Yeah.
I will say that
I totally.
Having people's insurance rates go up 2-3 times definitely helps us. People feel that in the pocketbook immediately. And so again, like, what can we do about that on the state level? There's some nuance there about how we can address that, but fundamentally, people are very aware that things are hard right now.
Well, and tort reform is not changing that. So
you're in the weeds again, Shea.
I know, sorry.
Well, and I think that something that, you as state legislators do a wonderful job of, and some of our other legislators who go and really are making sure that we are that voice and saying we're listening to people. I know Representative Lupton and Representative Lim went on a tour this past summer to talk to certain areas about their pocketbook and how this was affecting them, and making sure we were the voices to listen. So making sure that you all, we need to listen to people first. I think that is a huge thing when it comes to affordability, really hearing their concerns, because that is the first step to making change, is making people feel heard. And then we tackle it from there and just show them what we as Democrats can do. But really appreciate both of your answers on that. And then I have one last question I'm going to take before I jump into action items here. Which was, someone asked, what's the plan for the data centers and Georgia Power, if y'all know about that?
So I've heard their presentation, I think 3 times now. They say that they have negotiated contracts where the data centers will be paying for that. The taxpayers will not be paying for the data centers, that they are charging that to the data centers. They have said that our base rate will be frozen for the next 3 years. I raised my hand and said, can you define base rate for me? Because it seemed like they kept using that word base. And so there are other costs that could fluctuate. So we'll see if our rates actually stay where they're at. Transportation, they named some things. They are telling us that they have regenerative water sources now at the ones that have gone in, where they're recycling the water, because I know water is a big concern. I'm just telling you what they're saying. I'm not saying that my issue is that they, in the very beginning of their presentation, they laud Georgia as this special place and that we benefit from this public-private partnership. And in my mind, if we're going to have that, then there needs to be transparency, but we aren't allowed to see the contracts that they say the data centers have agreed to pay for this. And we all know what happened with Plant Vogel. And we all paid a lot more than what they told us we were going to pay for last time. And so there's a lot of us that are struggling to believe that that is going to happen the way they say. So the noise I hear is a complaint of people near them. So I don't know, as far as the legislation, did it get out of y'all's chamber? There was no. Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting. These data centers seem to go above. I remember last session when we had one of the older representatives, I don't remember which one it was, but we were talking about data centers and AI and stuff, and he quoted and said, oh, do I go to www dot, and and just didn't understand that it wasn't, didn't even understand that part of, so we won't dive too deep into that. But I really appreciate all your answers and everyone's questions. If we didn't get to your question, please do stay tuned, because we are going to have more webinars coming up and more opportunities for you all to be engaged and find out how you can really be of help. But I just want to thank both of our panelists for joining us and answering all these things to keep you all informed. And I'd love it if we could pull up those final slides so I can give you your action items. Yes. Beautiful. All right. So who wants to do something? Are you fired up? I'm the cheerleader for this entire, if you've ever seen me out at a parade, you'll be like, oh, wow, Melanie's cheering us to go do something. So I do want to not just invite you all down to the Capitol this session to say, come and be a part of this process, but I want to give you all some other actionable items. If you can't come down there, or if you can, that will give you hopefully a decrease in anxiety. So we can go to the next slide and I'll tell you what to do. All right, so you all can join our Urgent Action Network. What is our Urgent Action Network? Well, when we have things that you all can do for us, let's say that there's a committee hearing coming up that we really need public speakers for, or if we have some email that needs to be sent to the chairperson of a certain committee, we want a bill heard, this is going to be the place where you're going to find out instantly what you as our constituents can do to help us make this a good impact. So please do join our Urgent Action Network. You can see the link there, and I believe it's also going to be posted in the chat somewhere. It's going to be posted. Find the link. If you don't find it, take a screenshot of this and please do join us. But this is one of the greatest ways that you can stay in contact besides being with us on social media. So please do save that and join us at the Urgent Action Network. Next slide, please. And then the next thing you can do is join your local Democratic Party here at DeKalb Dems. Please join us if you're not already a part of our wonderful organization. Please, we need more members, volunteers, donors. You can also join the Democratic Party of Georgia. Both are wonderful organizations. And like I said, especially with DeKalb Dems, we will be putting stuff out during session to invite you all down, make you a part of this process, and just let y'all know as things are coming up that we need you for. Next slide, please. And then we have another webinar coming up. So anyone who's in here from our leadership training program, you've learned a lot about what happens in the inner workings. You know, a lot of times when we have these conversations, there's a lot of just jargon, political jargon, and things that you only learn when you're either down there or you're taking a crash course. So if you did not get a chance to be in our leadership training program, if you're too old for that, or you just didn't get the chance, we are going to have a wonderful webinar coming up on January 6th with MMO, also known as Mary Margaret Oliver, Representative Mary Margaret Oliver. She is really someone who is an expert in what happens down at the Gold Dome. So please join us at this webinar and learn about the inner workings of how bills become or don't become laws in the Georgia legislature, because it's not just as simple as we wrote something and that means it's going to get through. It's never that simple, unfortunately, especially being in the minority party. So please do join us if you want to learn more about that. Sign up. And then the next slide, please. I think that's the end. That's the end. Never mind. So join us for that webinar. We really appreciate you all being here, and we hope that we'll see you down at the Capitol this legislative session. Our office is always open, and you can also contact us on social media. But thanks so much, everyone, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.